Hey everyone, you're watching Conversations in Pop Culture, and I'm your host, Andrew Davis. And this episode is brought to you by my sponsors, Mixum Printing, the smarter way to print. I know printing your creative project can be confusing and stressful, but Mixum is here to make it easy. From their instant code calculator that lets you get as many quotes as you want for free to their 24-hour customer service support, Mixum is here to make sure your printing experience runs smoothly from start to finish. And right now, you can choose from a range of premium printing options and materials. And the company has also printed so many successful Kickstarter campaigns, a bunch of them you've even heard about on this very show. And they currently offer services in the United States, Canada, Australia, and the UK. And Mixum can print and reach your audience anywhere in the world. So if you're ready to print smarter, not harder, head over to Mixum.com. And right now, they are running a promotion where listeners of my show can drop my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of a current order to get a 5% discount on your first order. So that is mixam.com. Again, type my name, Andrew Davis, in the message tab of your current order to receive a 5% discount on your first order. Also, I do have some merchandise from my Kickstarter available up on eBay. So this metal card can be bought with my friend DJ Croft, and there's only 121 of these, and that's where it says metal card in the description. And I have this awesome, very, very sexy metal card too that's limited to 50. So if you like that, you can pick it up on eBay and buy it, and I need the money. So please go buy it if you are into metal cards. And without further ado, I have with me comic creator Roland Mann. So welcome back to the show, man.
Thank you. It's good to be back. So I was looking for the link, seeing if I couldn't find it and share it out. So.
Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. I think this is your third time because I've had other people from Silverline on before.
Yeah,
and,
I think it is.
You know, I always hit you up when you have a Kickstarter going on. I try to squeeze people from you. I think I had Aaron. Shoot, what's Aaron's last name? I think
Aaron Humphreys.
So I think I've had Aaron Humphreys on, and then I had John Martin on, and then I've had a few other people on as well.
Yeah.
And then I've had you on, and then you've not been on, and I was like saying, "Where's Roland?" And I don't know, but obviously you're here for a reason because you have a Kickstarter going on with Wolf Hunter and Sirens remix. But I like to use it with a capital X. And
yes,
I wrote it purposely. It was intentional.
Excellent. Yeah, so, that's the way we're doing it on the cover too, with the capital X. So
let's kind of talk about the Kickstarter, and because it's a double feature, and that's something that Silverline Comics does now, and is almost your signature in a lot of ways. And what is the basic story? And I think we're going to just start with Wolf Hunter.
So Wolf Hunter is it's an alternate history, but it's a World War II spy story. Basically, it's all set on a train where an RAF captain gets shot down and then recruited by the British government to basically protect their radar technology. If you know much about World War II, what helped the British win in World War II was their radar technology. They were able to spot the German planes coming, and this was early radar technology. And this is a story of a German spy on English soil, and before the train reaches a stop, the RAF captain James Willard has to find out who it is and recover the stolen technology.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on with this, and obviously, it's alternative history, but there's also factual things that happened in this to some degree.
Yes.
And so where did this idea come from? Because it's definitely an old wartime story. It's almost like Airboy, I feel, in that era of comics. And so where did this idea come from, and even just building it out and capturing that vibe, because it is something very, very cool. And I like those stories.
Oh, I do too. Well, I'm not sure. So Tim TK is the writer, and he has been the associate editor for Silverline almost since the beginning when we kicked this thing up here in, I guess, 2019. And he's one of those unsung heroes at Silverline in that he works diligently behind the scenes. He keeps the website going. He hosts the Tuesday show. They were on last night, and he's been working on this one. He's got this one, and he's got another one in the works. But he's been working on this one for some time, and it's just one of those projects that if you've done independent comics for a while, you know that sometimes you hit bumps along the way. There are potholes in the road, and this is one of those that we thought we would probably do summer of last year. It just didn't happen, so we're just now getting to it. But Tim is a former student of mine, and he was one of my rock stars. And so when Silverline came around, we touched base, and I started talking to him. I said, "Well, look, I liked your stuff as a student. You were a hard worker. I like your ideas. Let's talk." And probably Tim remembered my love for I love alternate history, right? I'm a big Harry Turtledove is one of my favorites. He did a lot of the alternate World War II, alternate Civil Wars.
I'm a big Uber fan. I don't know if you know Uber. Uber is great. It's like, it's gonna sound messed up when I describe it. It's like, imagine the Germans have super soldiers and they're now sort of winning the war, and then all of a sudden the America and the UK now needs to catch up, and you have super soldiers that can like rip a tank in half with like a pinky.
See, I would so read that. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And the cover artwork on it is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's an Avatar. And I mean, it is just an amazing, amazing book. And like Michael D. Pascal has done covers. Kanan White did a bunch of work on it. Like, all these top people are like slaying it. And I think it's Kieran like Golan's thing, and he's worked for Marvel. And it's unbelievable. It's like the most amazing comic that nobody knows about.
Wow, no, I've never heard of it. I'll have to look that one up. That's the easy title to remember too.
It's a cougar, and then it's like the dot on the U. It's brilliant, and it's alternative history, and it's unbelievably good. And you're rooting for the Nazis, and it sounds crazy.
Yeah,
but like, it's awesome. You're just like, this is sick, and like, people just it's an amazing. Like, the first 6 issues are some of the best comics in the last 10 years.
Wow, that's high praise. You don't see a whole lot of real alternate history in comics. Turtledove, you talking about World War II? Turtledove wrote one in which, during the middle of World War II, aliens invade the world, and so literally the U.S. and Russia and Britain and the Nazis, Japan, have to team up together in order to fight the aliens that have invaded. So that was kind of a fun one. I think that was like a 3-part book. That was kind of fun. One of my favorite comic books though was oh man, I'm trying to think of the writer's name. Was Peter Panzerfaust. Did you ever read that?
I haven't.
Yeah, Peter. It's basically the story of Peter Pan, which I'm a big fan. Peter Pan set in World War II France, in which Peter is Curtis Wiebe. Curtis Wiebe is the writer, in which Peter Pan is an American orphan in France at the time of the war. The Lost Boys are French orphans, and they are also the French underground resistance, right? So they are fighting against Captain Hawken, right? Not Captain Hook, but Captain Hawken, who is obviously it's World War II, World War One. I think it's World War II. It's been a while since I've read it, but I highly recommend it. It's very good. If you like alternate history, if you like Peter Pan, I do highly recommend that. It's a good read.
So I mean, one of my favorite books, and it sort of touches upon World War One, is Lost Girls by Alan Moore.
You're right.
And oh my God, what a whole amazing book on both an erotic level and just on what happened to Dorothy, Alice, and Wendy. And oh my God, what a brilliant book. And I'm a huge Alice in Wonderland fan, and I'm a huge Oz fan. Like one of the best things that I've ever read in comics was Wonderland by Zenescope.
Oh, cool.
And Wonderland is perfect. You had such an amazing team with Raven Gregory and Nia Rufino and Ralph and Joe and all the people worked on Wonderland. What a brilliant team, and it's arguably the greatest comic team ever assembled. Just because Wonderland is just that perfect.
Yeah.
I love Zenescope, but getting back to Wolf Hunter and all that stuff. What is it like to sort of have your student then working for Silverline, doing a lot of the back work and associate editing, as well as maintaining the website and making sure books get out and are appropriately getting out and make sense, to then also have an opportunity to shine on it? Because at a certain point, you have to reward your staff.
Yes.
And a paycheck's nice too, and money's good as a reward, but also getting the opportunity to do something,
Well,
kind of cool too.
It's nice that that Tim's been writing anyway since he graduated. Can't remember exactly. I think he graduated at 17. I think. But I'm it's nice for me to be able to see, because I've been cheering for him and for this project for a long time. So it's nice for me to see it finally happen, and to know that that Silverline will be his first published comic. So that's exciting, because I know he's been working hard, like a lot of art graduates. He got him a day job when he after he graduated. And so, he works a full-time job, and then he comes home and he works a second full-time job, writing and trying to sell stories and doing stuff for Silverline. So, he's been a hoss, and I'm glad to see this happening for him. I'm excited about it. I don't know if you had a chance to see the cover, but it's Stephen Butler. It's an old, there you go. So
I'm prepared, everybody.
Yes, so that Wolf Hunter cover is by Stephen Butler, and it's an homage to an old Russ Heath War Comics cover. Stephen Butler's a longtime friend of mine, going back to my college days, and of course Stephen's known to do a lot of homage covers these days. He does a lot of them for Brian Pulido, for the Lady Death Kickstarters and things like that. So this is Stephen sometimes does things for us, and when I mentioned this to him, he's like, "Man, I love Russ Heath. I'd love to do that." So he penciled it. John Martin, who is the inker, the interior inker, yep, a good guy, and then the colorist is Martin Mertonen, who this will be his first Silverline book. So. But he colored it. I just think that cover is awesome. It looks fantastic.
So to even talk about that, and obviously it's paying tribute and homage.
Yeah.
Old war stuff and old war comics, and I read a lot of military comics, and I have a relationship as a reviewer with the Navy Press Institute, which is super cool.
Cool.
I love to tout it. I just love touting. There are very few things I like to tout out everybody. That's one of them, and I actually got to work on something tomorrow for them. Writing a review. It's going to be fun. If I get a free graphic novel, I'll write a review. Anybody wants to send me free stuff, I'll write a review on it.
Yeah.
From my website, I believe in cash equivalencies. Or if you want to be on my show and you want to send me a physical copy of your book, I'm down for that too.
Right.
Hey, I might as well get something out of the deal.
Right.
But what is that like? Because that's also something interesting, because you're not writing it, but you are running Silverline Comics. Not necessarily by yourself, but even to say, hey, I do want to have Stephen Butler do a cover. It's good for the cover. It's good for the Kickstarter. But I would also imagine you want to say, hey, I believe in your project, Tim. And I believe that I want to give it the best shot at being delivered and sort of rewarding you and sort of making it work. And so what is that like? Because it's both business and also personal relationships and maintaining them, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. I mean, you know that there's not a lot of money in independent comics, and so you got to be doing it because you like independent comics. But as you know, as you said, as the one who's kind of running it, one of the things, one of my wishes, one of my goals for someone like Tim is that we can move enough of these books and raise enough money, sell enough of them that he can make some money out of this, and he can be rewarded for his hard work. That's always kind of the desire. You want to be able to take care of them. I mean, you can see I'm in my home office. This is where I do my, I teach at university. So I teach on campus and online. So obviously when I'm on campus, I'm not here, but when I'm online, this is where I teach my class. This is the Silverline office. And so, we don't have corporate headquarters. I guess corporate headquarters is my mailbox right out there, right? So,
to even talk about that, isn't that what it's like though? Because in a lot of ways, and I don't know your expenditures, but my expenses are dirt cheap running conversations in pop culture and pop anime comics and all that. And my expenditures on my eBay business is a little bit different because I'm moving a lot of merch around and I carry a lot of merchandise and value merchandise. But that's a little bit different because that's almost more like a warehouse play. But even still, that stuff and that was built over about 10 years.
You're right.
Business over and over again. But that's also a different business. But my expenses on Conversation in Pop Culture and Pop Anime Comics Lounge and Pop Anime Comics, I mean, I'm running bootstrapped purposely. I'm a one-man employee, for a reason. And that's why my costs, my headquarters is my parents' mailbox. It sounds crazy, and I don't know if I ever want to change it. And when I move out, it's going to be my apartment.
Right.
Because it allows me to put more money back into the business.
Yes.
And also it allows me to take distributions. My eBay business legitimately is a P.O. box. I have a P.O. box in case I need to receive something and I don't want to send out my personal address on my eBay thing. But beyond that, there's no like corporate headquarters.
Right.
It allows me, instead of having an office, I could take $1,200 as a distribution to myself. So that's also something I think is very important that people don't understand in indie comics is that you don't need to have a corporate office. It looks cool. It must be fun to some degree, but money is also fun, and having more of it is a lot fun.
Yeah, right. Yeah. There's another Florida publisher, a small press publisher, that they've got an office and corporate headquarters essentially. And I don't know how they do it. I don't know how actually I do know it. They have to have an investor. So they've got someone who's invested money. But everybody else that I know, literally they run it out, off their kitchen table, out of their, spare bedroom, out of their garage. Everyone else that I know that makes independent comics, that's what they do. So
I mean, for me, and I'm very honest, I want to get to the point that if I'm doing $1 million, I'm going to buy a studio.
Right.
But that's also different where once you get to a level, you're doing, Brian Polito has to have a distribution and a warehouse, and he has to have a building to some degree or an office. Because when you're doing that much money 2-3 times a year, you're now playing at a different ball game.
Right. Yeah.
And you need to
you see the pallets that he gets shipped to him, his books. I don't have the space for that here. I literally do not have the space for the kind of product that Polito moves,
And so, but then that's a whole different ballgame because then you have PO orders and that's a different entity. But even still, going back to I think what we were getting at before we got slightly sidetracked, it really is important in a lot of ways because indie comics, at least I think, are built on a lot of personal relationships.
Yeah.
And it's trusting, the writer, trusting the cover artist, and the cover artist trusting the writer and the editor and the interior artist and the inker and the editor and even just the person who's going to bleed your page, for lack of a better word. And so rewarding people and even maybe spending $200 when you don't need to spend a $200 cover, for instance, can go a very long way.
Mm-hmm.
Because that makes people come back into, wanting to work with you again and again and again. And so I think that that's something that a lot of people don't understand, is that a lot of what at least I think, because I haven't done an indie comic,
Yeah.
I think it is very much personal relationship building.
It is. And it, I mean, even beyond, indie comics, when I was an editor at Marvel, it was about relationships. You want to work with people that you get along with, people that you like, people that make you look good, people that can meet their deadlines. That's the kind of thing that you want to do. And I'll say, before we started this iteration of Silverline, one of the things that I said is that, hey, I got a full-time job. I can't do this all by myself. If we're going to do this, you guys got to help me out. And they did. They stepped up. They're like, yep, I'll do this. I'll do that. Barb keeps our books. She was spent 20 years as an accountant. So she keeps all of our books for us. So she's always on me. I need a receipt for that. I need a receipt for this. Right. But she keeps us straight. And the thing I like about it too, it helps with our transparency. If you're a creator and you do a book for the one guy, and then he says, oh, here's your $5. That's all that's made. Well, then you're kind of like, did I really, is that really all I made? Are you sure? Barb keeps all the books. She makes all the forms. We'll send out a report, to when we send the creators their money, we send them a little report. Here's how much we spent. Here's how much we made. Here's how much the creators get. Here's what you get, And that keeps it, from my perspective, that keeps it all transparent, so they know exactly what's going on. We're not trying to hide anything.
Because obviously, and you see it, I see it, a lot of people see it, is that there's always things that go around where an artist stiffs a writer, or a writer doesn't pay their artist, or somebody their cover artist, or the letter is getting pissed off. And look, sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not true. And there's been plenty of situations where somebody's just not happy about a deal, or their covers sold out better and they feel like they got paid what they were owed. And there's plenty of times that, somebody does screw somebody over. And obviously transparency, I think, helps to not only dissuade that and say, look, this isn't the norm, because you never hear saying, oh, Silverline pays their artists all the time. You never hear those stories. Right. You only hear the bad stories. But when you have transparency and you pay somebody and says, oh, yeah, you paid me. Here's the PayPal receipt. Here's the receipt. Here's our contract. When you get called out, or even when you talk about it, people say, okay, I want to work for that company because they're going to pay me. And maybe I'm going to make $100 less, but I know that I'm going to get paid. Right. I'm not going to get screwed. And because there is a big problem in comics that way right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's always kind of been the case, particularly for independent comics. I worked for Kamiko in the early 90s.
Good times, right?
And they still owe me money, so not just me, they owe a lot of people money, but that's really the only company that I can think of off the top of my head that owes me, any sum of any amount. But so that's been a problem for a long time, and my thing is, I don't want that to ever be Silverline. I don't want somebody walking away and saying, hey, this is what they told me, this didn't happen, so that's important to me.
Yeah, I think it's important. One of the things is that obviously I have guests who pay to be on my show, and I have advertisers. And one of the things that I'm understanding is that I'm saying, look, I'm going to get you on. You got to do it at 4 in the goddamn morning. I got to wake up all my neighbors. I don't care. And if you're unhappy and you're waking up all your neighbors too, I don't care either. You have to get on my show and we have to book you. We don't have to book you right this second. And I say to people, look, if you don't want to you don't want to use it for this project, that's fine. But I don't ever want the reputation that Andrew didn't deliver
Right.
on something. I don't want that reputation. Now, if I can't deliver, I'll just refund you your money.
Yeah.
Which that, but I'm not having to do that at the moment. And I don't want to ever be in that position where it's like, I'm like, look, I know you got a project coming in June, for instance, for somebody. We could do it in June, the interview. But I don't
Right.
want the reputation, because my reputation, I spent 10 years building my reputation.
Right.
And that's the thing too, because it takes literally 3 minutes to ruin your reputation.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of things you could say about me. One thing you can't say about me is that I don't prepare for an interview, that I don't take it serious, and then I'm going to screw somebody on Kickstarter. If I say we're doing an interview, I'm going to do everything in my power to give you something. And look, I've said to people who I said, yo, I owe you a live read when you want to do it, and they never get back to me. There's only so much I can do about it.
Right.
But that's how I view it. And we're going to get into Sirens in a second. But I am curious because you brought up Marvel and obviously Malibu.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what was this like coming into obviously Marvel, Malibu, working there, doing editing, possibly some writing, and running in that corporate structure, and then sort of getting out of it, for lack of a better word, and resolving problems. And I don't think we need to go through the history of Malibu.
Right.
I know the exact person to contact for that.
Yeah.
Let's just say he's very red about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was fun. I tell people frequently that my time at Malibu is I look back on very fondly of my time there. I was the way it happened is I was a writer that doing work for Malibu, and I had noticed a couple of months that I had been able to make some pitches to them, and they were like, "Yeah, we like that. Come on." They did not everything, but I was having a lot of success pitching them, and then I noticed a couple of months in a row I was not having success, and so and in Atlanta I met Chris Ulm, who was the editor in chief, and I just said, "Hey, we got problems with my pitches. Am I pitching the wrong kind of content? What's going on? You guys aren't buying anything from me anymore." He said, "Oh no," he said, "we're just getting ready to start our own in-house production team, and we're going to try to move a lot of that in-house kind of. We want to build kind of a bullpen like Marvel has." And I'm like, "Oh," and so just kind of on a whim, I said, "Well, why don't you hire me?" And he said, "You would move to California?" Because I'm from Mississippi, and this was at Dragon Con in Atlanta that we met. And I said, "Well, if all things considered, maybe, And 2 weeks later, he called me with an offer to come out there and be an editor. So that's how I ended up as an editor at Malibu. And then, of course, I ended up as a Marvel editor because they bought the company. And so I went from being, a Malibu editor to a Marvel editor through corporate takeover. And then I went from being a Marvel editor to being employed because Marvel declared bankruptcy, and they fired a whole bunch of people. They fired about 400 people in the span of a couple of days, and I was just one of the ones that got fired. I went home and licked my wounds for a while, very depressed because it's what my whole life trajectory was to get to that point, and I was doing what I wanted, right? I was living the dream, you could say. I wanted to work in comics, and that's what I was doing. Suddenly it all disappeared.
So there's a lot to talk about with that, though.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Not to open up wounds again.
No.
But one of the things that I say is that I say comics is like being a stripper, where it's temporary work.
Yeah.
And whether you're doing indie, and again, people may or may not like what I'm about to say, but you could be doing $100,000 on a Kickstarter right now. But tomorrow, if nobody likes your project, or that style gets out of touch, or somebody has a better concept, better artists, finds the next generation, or poaches your artists, or takes your artist and does it better.
Right.
You could be doing 50,000, and it can go either way. And you could be on top today, but nobody stays on top forever.
No.
And so it's temporary work. One of the things that they were speaking about before we went on the air is that I buy and sell comics. I take a distribution and I invest it into the stock market because I understand what I'm doing is temporary.
Right.
Meaning that I have a good business and I think it's going to be good for a long time. But I also understand that it could change in a heartbeat.
Oh yeah.
And so that's a really good lesson, I feel, where you were moving upward, but then the market shifted. And I think it's something that a lot of creators need to hear.
Yeah.
And then they need their asses kicked on a little bit too.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, because sometimes they creators tend to live in a bit of a dream world. But so after that was all over, that's when I decided that I would become my own small press publisher. And I'm like, hey, I know how to do it now. I kind of was trained, by Malibu and then by Marvel to kind of go through all the steps. My problem was I did it at the wrong time. I should have realized, hey, Marvel went bankrupt for a reason, and that reason is the comic industry was crashing. And so I started a comic company right about the time the comic book industry crashed. Lost a lot of money. I did it from 97 to about 2001. So about 4 years.
That was going on. That's what really crashed the entire market, where the market went through what was known as a correction.
Yes. Yeah. And I lost a lot of money. And that's when I just said, all right, I'm done. And I quit comics. And that's when I went and got another degree and started teaching, which is what I do now. But then I remembered how much fun making comics was, and that's how I got back into it.
So let's even talk a little bit about that too, because obviously going into Malibu and then going into Marvel and getting all that training, all of that positioning, where you're now learning how to build a company and produce a book and edit a book and hire talent, and even the idea of how to talk to a distributor to some degree.
Right.
And so what was that like, even just gaining that knowledge and having an understanding of that knowledge and utilizing it? Because now that's a real advantage.
Well, yeah, and that's actually key, because there's one thing about having the knowledge, and then there's the other thing about doing it, right? So I had the knowledge for a lot of that stuff, like you mentioned, dealing with distributors, dealing with printers. I knew in theory how it all worked, but I hadn't done it. So that was, it's like, okay, I can make the comics, but I've never actually taken them from finished. I finished them. I handed them over to someone else to take care of. And so when Silverline came around, I'm like, okay, now I got to figure out, how do I deal with the printer? How do I schedule shipping? How do I make sure the distributors pay me? That was all, learn on the job.
Yeah, because it's also the idea that you have just enough knowledge that you think you can do something, but you don't have all of it, that you're not fuckable proof, I guess.
Right.
Or bulletproof, I guess. And so what was that even like, just learning those lessons? Because that's another thing that a lot of creators, I feel, today don't understand, and people get burned on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I said I lost a lot of money. One of the big things, the difference between now and then, when you printed a comic book back then, you had to have a minimum print run, right? So when I printed, Switchblade, I had to do 3,000 copies, right? That was your minimum print run at the time. 3,000 copies is a lot of copies to invest in for a small press publisher at one point in time. And if you ever studied sales records, you always know that number one, right, the sales appear. Number 2 is always going to give you a dramatic drop. Number 3 is going to give you a little drop. Number 4 is going to give you a little drop. This is one of the reasons that Marvel and DC, continue to reboot, relaunch, because the number ones come in at a lot higher sales figures. And so I could sell. I'd have to go back. I still have all the records, but I could sell 1,000 copies of Switchblade number 1 and go, yay, I did it. I got sold copies, right? But I still had to print 3,000 copies, right? Because that was the minimum print run. So even though I took 1,000 of those and sent them to distributors, I got 2,000 in my garage. Well, the other problem to that is, okay, so I sell 1,000 copies of number 1. That means I'm going to sell probably fewer than 500 copies of number 2. And less than 400 copies of number 3, and maybe 300 copies of number 4. That's just the way the sales go. And so
you have 12,000 books now.
But you still you still got to print 3,000 copies. And so that's how I ended up with an awful lot of books in my garage.
Because this is something that I think a lot of people in the last 5 years don't get. Like, I understand comic history. I understand how comics were built. I understand the entire thing with Denny O'Neil with killing off Robin, Jason Todd. Right. You actually had to pay to use your phone in your house. Maybe people don't realize that your cell phone's somewhat free right now, everybody, because you have unlimited calling where you have 900 minutes.
Right.
And you got to be difficult to use 900 minutes.
Right.
But the idea is that but I think people don't even realize that, like with Mixum or Kablam or Comics Wellspring, you can print 25 copies of a book.
Yep.
But before, you couldn't do that. And
right.
that's something that I think a lot of people don't understand, that like comics have come a long fucking way.
Oh yeah. Well, the fact that print on demand exists has really changed the game. We would not be doing Silverline would not be able to do what we're doing now if it wasn't for print on demand. I counted the other day, and what did I come up with? I think I came up with the number of 27 since Silverline relaunched in 2019. We have done 27 comic books. 27. That's a lot of comic books. That doubled my output from the late 90s. I did 13 books in the late 90s. Well, I've done 27 already, right? So, but again, I wouldn't have been able to do it if we had to print traditionally, and I had to print 3,000 copies of all of those. I'd be sitting with a garage full of unsold copies, and in the hole, in debt quite a bit. But thanks to print on demand, like you said, hey, we get let me see here. Going back to the Kickstarter, we get 100 backers. I can print 100 books. I don't have to print 1,000. I just print 100 books to whatever the backers, how many backers we get.
Yeah, because and I think like a lot of creators are like, it's so hard now, and I'm like, you guys really don't get how difficult it was 20, 30 years ago in indie. And but I am curious, and then we're gonna obviously dive into Sirens. But like, I do think the hard part is getting eyes on your project now. Where
I agree
that there are not a lot of shows that are interview shows. There's a lot of panel shows. There's not a lot of interviews who are knowledgeable about comics and even read somebody's book or even read their Kickstarter. And I watch a bunch of shows now. I'm like, how do you not read somebody's Kickstarter if you're interviewing them at the very least? But also it's the idea that whether people want to admit it or not, you're competing not just for your comic and against your comic against somebody else's comic. You're competing against Netflix, Crunchyroll, Hulu, Peacock,
PlayStation,
Sports, PlayStation, Xbox, wrestling, sleep. That's a big one. Regular books, magazines, you name it, you're competing against everything.
That's right.
And I hate to say it, but like, I'm a big anime guy, and that's the thing. And then that's not even factoring money.
Right.
At that point too, because I hate to say it, Comixology is $6.37 every single month for me. and I could read unlimited comics and comicsology of almost 80,000.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so you're competing against that too. So
Right.
what is that like for you? Because that's the hard part now, I think.
Yeah. The question is that what is what like for me?
Just even the fact that I think the focus in the comic world has shifted from now having the problem of printing or having excessive print runs or having excessive inventory to how do I find backers? How do I get attention? How do I make sure eyes can be on my project?
Yeah.
In my tribe.
Yeah, that's the challenge, and that's one of the things that we've been talking about the last couple of months at Silverline, because we're like, hey, we kind of feel like we've kind of hit a ceiling here, and it's like, okay, there's got to be more people out there that are interested in the kinds of things that we're doing, one of the things we try to communicate is that unlike a lot of projects on crowdfunding campaigns like like Indiegogo or Kickstarter, a good many of those comic book projects got kickstarted, and they raised lots of money, and their backers are still waiting for the product, So there's a lot of people that have been in that situation where we have done. Oh shoot! I think give me just a second. I'll pop open this history here. I've been keeping a tally of our. So this is our 18th Kickstarter. Okay, I have a. You can't see it now. I'm not gonna get up and take it. I have a box in there waiting for the post office tomorrow that will complete the fulfillment of I'm sorry, this is our 17th. The box in there will complete the fulfillment of Rejects and Sniper and Rook. Okay. When the mailman runs my house tomorrow, that will be the last books out the door for Rejects and Sniper and Rook Kickstarter. And that will mean we will have successfully fulfilled 16 Kickstarters on time. And so we try to push that, because that way, folks can look at us and say, okay, well, you know what? This may not be as contentious or what are words I'm looking for? As supermodel-y, right? As March.
It may not be what is known as bagger art, or sexy, or provocative. It might not be hustler. It might be a little bit more classy, like Playboy.
Yeah. Well, it's there's you see a lot of
these color.
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Well, but you see a lot of these campaigns with marquee names, right? And then you see backers begin to complain about it a year later. Hey, I backed this, I still don't have my book. Hey, I backed this, I still don't have my book. That's not the case for Silverline. Is that we have said that Rejects and Sniper and Rook would be out in March, and like I said, where's my calendar here? Tomorrow will be the 17th. So
great holiday. Great
holiday. When the maybe the mailman may not run tomorrow. Then I don't.
No. It's not a federal holiday.
Okay, good.
Hopefully he's celebrating at night and not during the day.
Yeah, yeah. So when the mailman runs tomorrow, that will mean that we will have fulfilled on time, as promised, 16 Kickstarters, right? So I've got no reason to expect that the Wolf Hunter and Sirens will be any different. It'll be number 17. And so I think, maybe I'm making a bigger deal out of it than it needs to be, but I see so many people complaining that they haven't gotten their book from this Kickstarter or that Kickstarter.
This is how I view it, and I'm actually curious about your feedback. So I'm at the stage where I am beyond selective. I don't have a lot of money coming in, and I have to pick and choose what I want to back.
Right.
And so, and this is going to sound weird when I start explaining it. So I look at the book's
Right.
concept. I look at what's going on. I look at what I'm getting for my value. I'm looking at shipping costs.
Right.
I'm also looking at stretch goals. I'm looking at the creative team behind it, whether they're a good person, bad person, or they're indifferent. I'm also interested in covers. I'm interested in value. I'm also interested, do you offer me anything on day one that
Right.
I don't back it on day two? I think Travis Gibb is having something, and he's offering a metal card for first day backers. I'm going to
Okay.
back this book anyway. It's going to be a priority tomorrow to back it.
Right.
But because I'm a metal card guy, I'm looking forward to Cthulhu Invades Wonderland. I'm a big Oz and Wonderland fan. Obviously, anybody who knows me knows I love that stuff in Zenoscope. I love that stuff and other things. But
I did a Wizard of Oz adaptation. Did you know that?
I did not. I did
Yeah.
not know that.
I think I have a copy.
But and I'm curious your feedback, because at this stage, I also look at how expensive the Kickstarter is going to be and what I'm interested in. And so I'm now at the stage of evaluating all of this stuff. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. This is done about 2010. See if I can find a date on this.
But even to go
2010.
further, that's sweet. But to even go further, because this is where I'm at now as a backer. And then I look at, are you on time? Did you deliver? Are you before time? And all that stuff matters. And also gets a bit more trickier, because when I'm interviewing somebody, potentially when I interview people, I'm saying, what project do I want to back?
Yeah.
And that's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
And, that's what, to some degree, we're doing here too, is that if you have a bad interview with me, I'm not backing your book. Also, my audience isn't going to be backing your book.
Right.
It's a vote of confidence. And so this is where I'm at now.
Yeah.
And this is what happens when there's a lot of projects out there. This is what happens when limited money. And this is what happens when I deploy my capital in a different way.
Right.
And so I'm curious how you feel about all that, because I'm looking at this from a consumer position.
Yeah.
And I'm curious about it from more of the producer position.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel the same way. I'm trying to think. So if you look at the Kickstarter page, you'll see that it has my caricature there, and it will tell you that I have created 15 campaigns, but I've backed 272. So I'm a backer. I back a lot of campaigns. I support a lot of independent comics, and yeah, I look at the same things you do. I look at the price point. I look at I look at the page count. To be honest with you, because I'm a reader. I don't look at the bling as much because I'm not me. I'm not a hater, but I'm not that invested in buttons and pins and things like that. They're cool, but I don't.
It depends on the stretch goal, though.
Yeah.
Well, somebody's going to give me a bottle opener. I like to drink.
You're right.
So I like to open up a beer, and if it has your logo and it looks dope, I'm kind of interested.
Right.
Where if it's a stretch goal and it's in there anyway, I'm kind of interested, because I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Or like a keychain, for instance. I like a keychain.
Yeah.
Or a metal card is my point. But I don't care about an art print. I don't care about a button. I don't care about a pin. That doesn't interest me.
We did a keychain on one of ours. I thought I had one right here, but I'm not seeing it.
But like also like what I like as stretch goals is, I love if, like, saying if we do like 30,000, I'm gonna give everybody an extra book. That's a great
stretch. Oh yeah. Well, we did that in the last one. We did in the Rejects and Sniper and Rook. We did hey, if we can reach this goal, then everybody at the physical level gets an extra literally an extra print copy of a different book that we had. John had it, and so everybody got not just the one, they got two. Actually, they got three, because we do the doubles, the flip books, right?
because this is where I'm at now as a backer, is that I'm
Yeah.
only back like 35, and I think I'm only going to back another 6 or 7. And I mean, I hate to say this, but you got to earn my dollar.
Right.
Now,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and I'm at the stage where it's just like, I guess I'd take a Warren Buffett approach where if I don't like anything that you're selling, I'm not buying. So I buy a lot of Zenescope books on their virtual sales.
Right.
Today on a virtual thing, I bought $30. I haven't spent ever $30 on a virtual sale with Zenescope. I did not like 95% of what they were selling, which is bad. It means I'm not interested, and I don't have. Not saying I don't find those books are going to be easy sales on a resale level. I don't find that what they're putting out there, $30. And the only reason why it was $30 is because they were offering a book for $5.
Yeah.
That I'm going to flip in about 18 months for 25. And it was a Keith Garvey book, but like that's where I'm at now, and I'm like, you got to earn my dollar.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what I do. I look to see, are you charging? What are you charging for your page count? And here's the thing, it's a crowdfunder, so I know that I'm going to pay a little bit more. I get that. If I was a super cheap dude, I would just wait and buy it from you at the convention when you're going to have it at whatever cost it is. But I know that you're trying to raise it. If you're doing a Kickstarter, I know you're trying to raise some funds. I don't mind paying a little bit more for it, because I know that. But in the same regard, I've seen some Indiegogos that were like, oh, this is a 22-page comic book and you can get it for $30. And I'm like,
There's somebody
a lot of money for.
There's somebody on Indiegogo right now, and I'm being ambiguous, and their regular cover is $25, and I'm like, what the fuck? You're pricing me out.
Which is fine if you've got 70 pages, 60 pages, right?
Even if you have 70 pages, it's a cover A.
Right.
This is the problem, is that I get it's a crowdfunding. I just spent with Zenescope on a Zenescope book, and I'm not going to open up the book at all. It's a Keith Garvey. I just spent $25 on a Keith Garvey.
Wow.
You have, but it's like a $250 print run.
Gotcha.
So, or it's a $299 print run. It's limited. It's great. It's not a big deal. I got no problem doing that all day. But if you have a crowdfunding book and it's not limited and it's a cover A and you're charging me $25 as an entry level position, I don't know. Like I become priced out of the market.
Right.
If it's a variant, I don't mind spending $20, $25.
Right.
Because I spend that money with Zenescope. And I look at, and I understand it's a crowdfunder, but you got to be in that ballpark.
Right. Yes, you have to be in the ballpark. Yeah. And that's what that's one of the things we do. We all of our Kickstarters have Kickstarter exclusive covers. So the only way you can get the that cover, like the Wolf Hunter Stephen Butler cover you showed a few minutes ago, the only way you can get that cover is to back this Kickstarter. Right. That cover is not going to be available once this Kickstarter is over. The book will be available. Obviously, we'll make the book available, but it's going to have one of those other covers that that's on the Kickstarter page. But if you want that gorgeous Stephen Butler cover, you got to back the Kickstarter.
Yeah, and it's just one of those things that obviously, and you have different price points as well.
Yeah,
where you're also not gouging my fucking eyes out.
Right.
Like I understand it's a Kickstarter, and I funded on my Kickstarter, and you might be paying $5 more for a live advert. Actually, you're not. You're actually paying less now that I think about it. My rates just went up. My guaranteed guest spot rate is the same, but my live read rate actually just went up. So you're paying less on my Kickstarter, technically, and that's the whole thing. And then, well, if I do what I say I'm going to do, you're going to be paying a lot more come November of next year. You're going to be paying a lot more, everybody. Probably going to be paying about 30 to 40% more.
Yeah.
Because when I'm in podcast format, that's a whole different ballgame.
Right.
Which is coming. It's coming, guys. So, you're not going to be able to see our lovely faces, but you will hear the
That's
smooth
right.
sounding voice of Roland. He'll just put you right to sleep, and you'll sleep like a baby.
That's right. And now, as we talk about the next Kickstarter we do, because you have to put on a podcast voice, right? When you're doing podcast, you have to put on the podcast voice. Yeah.
My podcast voice has long disappeared. That thing is dead in
Yeah.
the water.
Well, I have. They tell me I've got teacher voice, because I tend to be pretty loud. Teachers need to be loud up in front of the classroom, project to the back. So I have been told more than once that I have teacher voice. So that's all right, I guess.
Oh, I can project. I used to do all these panels, and I just said, screw the mic. And you just hear me project, and I'm not even screaming, but I'm filling up the entire room, and it's amazing. I'm like, I could go like this, everybody. And I'm like, am I doing all right? I keep the mic somewhere around, but I'm like, because I can't speak with a mic. It doesn't work. Like, it ruins my flow. It ruins my energy. It ruins my vibe. And I'm just like running shop. And like when you have 250 people and you're just projecting all the way to the back, you're like,
Yep.
and I'm just like golden. I'm just going 45 minutes straight. A pin could have dropped, like in lecture mode.
Nice.
The video, the entire thing was recorded, and I could have dropped a pin in the Javits Center doing this lecture, and it was just
Wow.
like, yeah. And I had the entire room filled up, and then I had a panel before that I was doing, so I did double panels back to back. And what ended up happening is that there's this big line. You watch the entire room fill up piece by piece. Like, okay, we're in now. And I told everybody, because I had like 40 people, I said, guys, don't leave the room. You're not going to want to leave the room.
Wow.
If you leave this room, you're not getting back in. It was one of those things where, oh my God, it was freaking savage. But that's a big aside.
Yeah.
We'll make that video about 2 weeks of that lecture at some point for everybody to go watch, and I'll just restream it on StreamYard. It's like 47 minutes, and oh man, it's just amazing speaking gig. But we do need to talk about Siren's remix.
Yeah. Yeah. So the remix. So a little bit of explanation about the remix. So
DMX is going on, right?
That's right. So one of the things that some people realize, some people don't, is that Silverline has been around for a long time in one form or another.
Really? I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Why is that?
It was just you gave that joke to me.
Okay.
Because I know the history. That's why that's funny.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But there's a lot of people who don't. They're like, I don't know who you are.
Well, they should listen to the first interview we did.
Well, that's true. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to find, so it's not like it's difficult. But I'm gonna assume that some of your listeners are like, yeah, I don't know who you are, dude. But yeah, so we started off as a packager, which is kind of how I ended up getting hired by Malibu, right? Is that we started off as a packager, and I did a whole lot of freelance projects. Sirens was one of them. It was printed by it was published by Caliber Press back in the early 90s. Just a black and white book. Right, we had done it as a 4-issue miniseries, but Caliber decided to take them and make it into 2 oversized issues to just sell them in 2s. Again, because they were afraid by the time we got to issue number 4, the sales would be so bad that they wouldn't they couldn't pay for the print run. So Sirens is just one of them that we're doing. And what we're doing is we've scanned them. We're digitally remastering. We're scanning original art when we can. Obviously, some of that art is lost to time. We don't know where it is. It's been sold to collectors and fans, and we don't know where it is at this point in time. So we scan from the original art when we can, and then we go in and just digitally clean it up and remaster it, and then we color it. Sirens is colored by Barb Kalberg, who you probably know. She inked Cat and Mouse. She wrote she's writing and inking and coloring her own Divinity comic book miniseries. So and she's doing an awesome job. It looks good. It's just bringing a whole new life to the project.
To even talk about that, because it's dealing with New Orleans and other stuff, and sort of turning into
voodoo
first, and it's very much fantasy New Orleans.
Oh yeah,
and really really cool stuff. But I think what's even more interesting is that, not to be rude about this, and not to make a pun, but this book was dead in the water. And it's the fact that it's coming now back, and now you have control, and now you have the right to bring it back and have it fully in color and bring something back from the 90s.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think people don't understand, is that, this comic 4 years ago wasn't on shelves, wasn't being reprinted, wasn't being put out there. But obviously, you now have it back in play.
Right.
And something that's very interesting about comics, that sometimes that happens where something becomes defunct. Cliff Comics, Charlton Comics, certain things are public or are owned by certain families, and you could re-put it out there.
Right.
And what is that like? Because I'm not saying it's not work. This is a lot of work, but it's also a big opportunity to reintroduce something 30 years later.
It's it's nice. Obviously, we believed in it 30 years ago. There's like I said, there's a handful of them that we are doing this with. We believed in them 30 years ago when they saw print in black and white, and we believe in them today. So we're excited because, and you've probably seen and heard this, there's a lot of people in American comic book reading audiences that won't pick up a comic book and look at it if it's in black and white. They're like, oh, this is in black and white? No, I don't want to read this. And I don't understand that, because the same people will go right next door and buy a manga that is in black and white, but that's okay. So I don't understand that. But there's a big part of the audience that won't buy something in black and white. Add to that, it's been 30 years. People don't know, we did Sirens. We did Switchblade earlier. People just are not aware of those stories. And so
to even talk about that too, because, and I'm curious, so certain comics from 30 years ago, I don't know what the life cycle of a comic is actually. And especially something that is not a Walking Dead.
Right.
Meaning that I don't know something that is not known. So Nightfall is known in comics, right?
Mm-hmm.
Batman Year One by Frank Miller is known in comics. But Birds of Prey by Chuck Dixon might not be as known, for instance. And I don't know the full length of an actual life cycle for certain comics. We all know certain events that happen in Marvel and DC. Blackest Night is going to be known for the next 50 years.
Yeah.
Civil War and Marvel Fear itself is going to be known. Infinite Crisis is known. But a particular Jeff Johns Teen Titans might not be known. And that thing might be not gone, but not at the forefront. It might be in stagnant water, for lack of a better word. And so what is this like to say, well, this thing's dead in the water, I own it. Let's spruce it back up. And let's put some new life into it. Let's sort of introduce it into a river, for lack of a better word. Because it's the idea that there's a bunch of people that have no idea what this book is. And it's been quiet for a while, and now it's new. But it's not new. I don't know if that makes any sense.
It does, yeah. I mean, in general, and we're talking about sort of traditional comics. In general, the life cycle of a comic is 30 days, right? It goes into the comic shop. The comic store owner will put it on its shelf for 30 days, maybe, At which point they'll rotate it out and put it into either the back issue bin or something like that.
So what I'm curious about, because I think I know that much. I think a lot of people know that. But how long does it take, in your opinion, for a comic to be out of, I guess, the public eye? So I'll give an example. What I mean by this is that Nightfall might be rotated out into a back bin after 30, 45 days when it first came out, but it wasn't out of the public eye for years. It's still in the
Right.
public eye.
Yeah.
So I view Sirens maybe 3 years at best, and I'm being beyond generous, maybe 6 months and it's out of the public eye.
Right.
Because that's where, and I don't know the answer to this because I have never done a comic and I've never had distribution. And that's what I'm curious about, because 30 days I think is even being generous. Like,
right. Yeah.
Because I know shops that 2 weeks something doesn't sell, it's
Well,
off the shelves.
Right, because they have very limited shelf space. They get new comics every week. So, they got to decide, okay, I've got these new comics. Which of these comics has to come off the shelf? And so they have to make that decision every single week. One of the things we'll eventually do with these is, because they're all miniseries, we will collect them into a trade. Now, a trade has a far longer shelf life because retailers they're not afraid to put those on the shelf and leave them there like a bookstore would, right? So you've got a much longer shelf life for your trade paperbacks or your graphic novels collections, whatever you want to call them. So all of the ones that all of the remix titles that we're doing will eventually get a trade once they've reached the last issue, because that's our plan anyway. So we want to use the individual issues to help us raise a little money for the coloring. And then once we're done, we'll release it as a trade in full color that might be able to reach a different audience than it did, 30 years ago.
It's also the idea that I know people who will only read graphic novels.
Yeah.
I know people who will only read floppies.
Same here.
I'm a weird combination where I am thoroughly enjoying reading on my iPad comics, but I also pick up Comixology.
Right.
Because it's a space issue at this point.
Yeah. Well, you see what's behind me, right?
I my eBay business takes in a lot of merch, and I move out merch. I got $200,000 worth of comics, and about 80,000 of it needs to be sold in the next 2 years.
Wow.
So, and look, some of this stuff is $600-700, so it's not like they're $1 books. You know what I mean? But at the same time, it's still a lot of books. I got like 14 long boxes worth $200,000 and 80, and a little about 45% of it is not my personal collection. So
gotcha.
it's and then even books in my personal collection are going to be sold.
Right.
And I'm bringing in books from Zenoscope that are valuable, that accumulate value, and then sometimes when he makes a really good offer on a book in your personal collection, it's hard to say no.
Right.
And, it's overvalued is what they offer. So I understand that business, but at the same time, I don't want to pick up Sonic the Hedgehog, even though I'm thoroughly enjoying it, in a graphic novel or floppies, because I have nowhere to put it. And it's a problem. And as soon as that 80,000 moves out, guess what? I'm buying more books. Maybe I'll buy a little bit less, but I'm always going to have a bunch of books on hand.
Yeah.
And so I have to be very selective of my space. And that's why I'm a big digital reader.
Right.
So I don't have a problem backing a book digitally.
Yeah.
My problem is that I really want all this stuff on Comixology.
Right. Yeah.
Located. That's the whole thing too. I don't mind borrowing a book.
Right.
And paying for the right to borrow.
Yeah. Now, do you only use Comixology? Or do you use other digital platforms?
I only use Comixology right now, just because. And the only reason why is that it's cheap. But I also buy physical books still.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Comixology for everything that I do not want to buy in my bookstore.
Gotcha.
So I'll give a great example. You ever hear of a book called The Black Dahlia?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
So I don't want to buy that book.
Yeah.
I have no desire. Fascinating read, thrilled that I read it, right? But I feel less pressure because I didn't buy it. So if I don't like a graphic novel and I didn't buy it, I don't feel
Right.
it. If I buy a book, it gets complicated because I'm like, I don't really like this. And that changed your decision. When I'm reading comicsology, if I turn Sonic the Hedgehog and it sucked, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to read anymore. But
Yeah.
I didn't buy it, right? So there are
Right.
some stories that are bad.
Yeah.
Like, this is not good. This is not Zenescope's best. So I just put it down.
Yeah.
And then I go to another story. I'm like, man, this is awesome. And so that's how I feel. But going back to Sirens,
Yeah.
and sorry, massive aside. This is this entire interview. Not my intention, but sometimes it's the way it goes.
That's all right. Those are the best ones, I think.
Hey, I'm having a good time. I don't know about you.
I am.
At this point, my show's doing what my show's doing, and I love what I'm doing on my show, and I think it's some of my best work right now, especially this year has been good, and even the back half of last year was great.
And you got to love what you're doing. I think that's important.
I think it's important too, and I also think that well, what I find is that I have a sponsorship because I enjoy what I do. I understand the audience, and I'm bringing them money, and that's the only thing I'm trying to do here. Is I'm
Yeah.
not looking to make millions of dollars right now off of my show. I'm looking to just get funded and
Yeah.
not have this thing cost me out of pocket.
Right.
Which is what the entire Kickstarter was for, and people thought it was a cash grab, which is one of the most upsetting things that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
The fact that somebody would think that 3 years into my project, 262 interviews in, and think this is a cash grab.
Mm.
Rather disturbing positions.
Yeah.
Very, very, very disturbing, to be honest. Which means they don't know who I am, and a little upsetting, but I don't try to pay attention to that. But getting back to Sirens, so obviously, this is kind of a cool experience. I think it's something that more creators should do, bringing back their old material, because the idea is that it's kind of like if all of a sudden a bunch of old Star Trek started playing on TV, there's a bunch of people who haven't seen it, and it's good content.
Right.
And that's the other thing too, is that, and I'm curious how you feel, but and it'd be very nice. There's some amazing comic stuff out there, but there's a lot of shitty stuff out there too.
Right.
Now, and there's stuff that's getting picked up by certain publishers, and I'm not trying to beat anybody up, but I don't think it's going to last in a comic shop. And I think there's a lot. I think as many good projects are on Kickstarter, they're just as bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think there's some some independent companies that
some subpar.
Yeah. They're like, oh yeah, you got a comic book? Come on, anybody can do it, and I think that's a problem because,
I'll say something, and it's going to get me in somewhat trouble, and possibly you as well. Are you familiar with what WWE did in the last 2 years with NXT?
What who did it?
WWE with NXT.
No.
So I'm going to explain it, and I'm going to ask if this is what you think is happening in comics. So WWE hired and took some of the top talent from the indie scene in wrestling, from places like Beyond, GCW out in California, and then they hired and signed them to NXT contracts.
Okay.
Then they brought in a class of some of the best wrestlers in the world. It was a sad day in the indies. It was sad. But a lot of us were happy because we were like, oh man, these guys are finally going to make money and get paid and achieve where they belong. Now, 10 months later, 12 months later, 14, 16 months later, 80% of the people that they hired, and then the people they hired before those people from the indies, all got cut and fired. So WWE basically took the best of the best and gutted the rest. That they didn't know what to do with. Basically went on an exploration mission to say what is going to make us money and who can we trust. And Do you think that's what's happening with publishers right now in the comic realm? And what's also going on slightly on Kickstarter?
Huh.
Good question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a good question. As far as comics in general, I would say probably not, because not in a bad way, because to an extent that's always been the case. If you want to make money in comics, your goal was to get to Marvel and DC, because Marvel and DC paid the page rates. Everyone else just paid as they could, which was generally not even anywhere close to Marvel's rates.
Pays equity, more or less.
Yes.
Which can be useful. Equity is not necessarily bad.
No, not at all. Not at all. Particularly if you're aggressive about trying to move the product, or the property, I should say. So I think to an extent that's kind of always been the case in comics, and I think it's I think a lot of the people who make independent comics are enticed by the idea, oh, I can go draw Spider-Man, and you'll pay me a rate that I'm not getting right now making this independent comic. Sure, I'll be there, right? So I that's always been the case. I mean,
So my thoughts on this is that, and I'm gonna drop a few names. Obviously, of publishers that go out and look for Kickstarters, Behemoth, Scout, Second Sight Publishing, and a lot of people are getting deals signed for their Kickstarter books to be published by them and then to get into distribution. Right. And that's where this theory and my thought process has come from, where it's now not anymore them, where I think a lot of these companies have no fucking idea what's going to be successful. I really don't. I don't think Scout, Behemoth, or Second Sight Publishing has an idea of what's going to be the next big hit. So they're like, we're going to pick up everybody's Kickstarter,
right,
and then we're going to gut when these books don't do well in a shop. Yeah. And the shop throws it into a dollar bank. And I think a lot of these books are going to get cut by issues 2 or 3, and we're not going to finish out in those areas. Yeah. And then the reason why I bring this up is a lot of people are acting cocky in comics right now.
I hate to see that.
I don't want these people to suffer. I just think that it's the idea that, from what I hear and what I see, a lot of promises are being made. And I think we're going to have what happened in the 90s happen on an indie level with a lot of these, publishers, because they're making a lot of promises to a lot of the people they sign. So, we're going to have like 3,000, 5,000, 10,000 books ordered in previews in a comic shop, and they're going to sell, and they're going to keep having that. And I hate to say this, but I don't know if you know comic shop economics, but I do.
Yeah.
And I know shops that say, we don't want to touch an indie book.
Right.
And if I'm to produce and go to my comic shop, I'm going to just give my comic shop 10 copies and say, look, why don't you sell it? If they sell, why don't we work out an equity deal?
Yeah.
Because I know the shops that I want to give it to are not going to be able to afford it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, because they have to. I mean, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize, the comic shops, is that, so a publisher sells to the distributor, right, which is primarily Diamond at this point in time. Publisher sells to the distributor. Distributor then sells to the retailer. The retailer has to pay their money to the distributor when they make the order. They're not going to get that book, though, for 30 days, 60 days, I think it is. I think it's the 60-day window now. So they make their order, and then they've got to wait 60 days before they get that. Now, the distributor is not the same. The distributor makes the order, and then then the publisher has 30 days to deliver the product. If you don't deliver the product, they can cancel it. But then the distributor has like an additional 30 days to pay the publisher. So the publisher has already output money for the printing process, right, and the shipping. ship the books to the distributor, and the distributor then has 30 days to pay them. So there's a lot of money caught up in different places that not really working for the shops or the publishers at the time, right? They have to. There's a lot of waiting on the money to come back, and
the
that
higher,
can be a problem.
The more positions you have in, the more that somebody takes a cut.
Yes, right, yeah. But I think you're right on a couple of the companies you mentioned. I think that.
I'm going to be very honest. If I could short them, oh my God, I would short them, and I would borrow money. I would short them for millions and millions of dollars on this issue. No question about it. A short, for those who don't know, means you're betting against it, where you're thinking that you're borrowing a stock at 60, thinking it's going to fall to 30, so that you sell it immediately to somebody else at 60. Then when it falls to 30, you buy it back and return to the person A that you borrowed it from, and you get to keep most of the profits.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
That's what I think is going to happen.
Wow, that would be interesting.
I would love to take that short.
Yeah.
On a 6-month basis, easy.
Wow.
In which that no question. I see the writing on the wall. I see it coming down the pike, and oh man, July and August are going to be bad months for a lot of people. I'm just, and look, I'm the first person to say that if you don't like what I'm saying, you see this and you think I'm rooting against comics. I love comics.
Right.
And some of these people are my friends who I'm referring to.
Right.
And I don't want them to fail.
You don't want to see them fail, no.
But I just see the writing on the wall too, and I'm not in good faith going to pretend here that they're not seeing it, and it's a problem. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. That's fine. It'll be a good thing if I'm wrong.
But in the same regard, they need to make smart decisions, and I'm not convinced some of them are. And some people may be saying that about Silverline too. It's like, hey, you guys are doing, 2 books. You're doing a Kickstarter every other month. You're doing 2 new books a month. Well, I mean, if you actually did the math, that literally means we are doing 1 comic book every month. That's not an unreasonable thing to do, I mean, as far as what we're producing, so no one's told me that they think we're doing too much, that they're just like, wow, it seems like you're doing something.
You are.
I don't feel we are.
We looked at Merc Mag and what they're doing. They're running one every 5 weeks.
Wow, that's fast.
I mean, it's technically it's against Kickstarter's rules, but that's neither here nor there.
Right. They're running some concurrently.
They're pretty much. My understanding is that you have to basically Kickstarter won't allow you to launch unless you basically say everything is fulfilled, and nothing's fulfilled. And I just think Kickstarter actually has to sort of deal with that problem. I really do think Kickstarter. I think that's a big issue for Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, I mean, it's evident. It's not that hard to look on that and be like, oh snap, and I think that's an issue coming down the pike. I also think it will actually change the nature of how comics are made if Kickstarter actually started cracking down on that.
Yeah.
Because I think people would not do year-out projects, which would have a good and negative effect at the exact same time.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm waiting on a book that I backed that's delayed, and I understand. I'm not worrying about it. I'm not going to say who it is, but he's good for it, and it'll be fun. It'll be a fun book too. But I'm like, you're running another Kickstarter right now, and your book's not done, and there's some holdups. I don't know.
Right.
I have a problem with it. I'm not running another Kickstarter right now because I have to fulfill my first one, and I have to be at least at 60%. And I'm like, if I have that attitude, I want to launch a comic book. I was supposed to do a Joe comic book, and I chose not to do it at the moment because I felt obligated. And that's something where I was probably going to do at least $2-3 grand on it. So I give them $2-3 grand for this, and to make sure that my backers are taken care of first and foremost. And there are other people running around. What the fuck? I mean, how can I have respect on a personal level for those people to some degree, and even for Kickstarter for not enforcing their own rules?
Right. Yeah.
And I mean, it's a fair position. I mean, Kickstarter just sent out an email. Do you want to join our advisory board? I'm like, absolutely, I want to. This is issue number 1. And believe me, I want to affect that issue. I want to say, you guys need to get this taken care of. And then, I'm going to be the most hated person in comics, so I'm going to go down this route.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, then why don't you either remove the rule or enforce the rule?
Right.
Because I'm not doing something because I don't want to violate Kickstarter's rule.
Right.
I view Kickstarter because knowing me, I'll get caught and then I'll be fucked.
Right. That would be me. Yeah, I'd get caught.
But that's the thing, though, right? So I don't want to run that risk.
Right.
And also I want that rule either enforced or removed.
Right. It's not worth it. It's not worth the risk.
I mean, my $855 on my Kickstarter definitely keeps me in the game on a StreamYard level for another year. And that's a big deal. That gives me another 12 months to figure out how I can fund the next 12 months. And that's a lot of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, totally off track. A siren's ringing.
That's okay.
This is how we roll. But I also like the fact that it's a flip book.
Yeah. Those are fun. The one that will be fulfilled tomorrow when the postman comes is this one. So yeah. So you can flip through it and read that, right? And then you can flip it over and you get to read.
And when you're done, you just flip it over and you start new. That's
right. And of course, this is our Kickstarter book, so we have all our supporters that we thank in here. But yeah, and this is another Stephen Butler exclusive Kickstarter cover. I think this is fantastic.
Maybe I should interview Stephen Butler next.
What's that? Oh yeah, good luck with that. He doesn't do these stream interviews at all. So
I will convince him.
You have to catch Stephen at a convention where you can sit down beside him and have all of your stuff right there.
That could be arranged.
Yeah. He actually I don't know where he's going to be next. He went to Pensacon a couple of weeks ago. But I don't know. I don't know his schedule. But yeah, he doesn't do these. So good luck with that. You get him on, I'll watch it.
I might be able to persuade him. Is all I'm gonna say.
Do it. Make it happen.
I mean, I have a nice big track record, and there might be sways coming, but even going back to the flip book though, because that's kind of the signature of Silverline now, and I don't think any other company that I know of does the flip books.
No, not that I'm aware of. Not since the '90s, anyway.
It's a nice throwback, and it's kind of fun.
We think so. I've only ever had one person tell me they didn't like it. One person told me, "I'm not going to back your projects as long as you keep doing flip books." And I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's kind of what we do, and it's kind of what we have done. And they seem, again, they seem to go over pretty well. Of course, you get that Kickstarter exclusive edition, right? So the only way you get this cover for Sniper and Rook is with the there you go. There's your Kickstarter exclusive editions. Now those are the A covers, right? And then those are the B covers. And I need to update the side, and that's the retro covers. Now we do retro versions, which are all in black and white. I need to update those images because those covers are now finished by Barb.
I really like this one. I like the retro a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I mean that cover A on Wolf Hunter is pretty dope, though.
Yeah, I think so.
Like, okay, I would love that on the cover B. Like, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that cover A on that Wolf Hunter book. Oh man, that'd be a dope poster to hang up.
Haha. Okay, I'll have to keep that in mind.
Because you know what it's got that like World War II vibe to it.
Yeah.
But it also looks like it was done in modern time too.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't look like, I don't know how to explain, like it almost looks like a semi-reproduction piece that's authentic.
Right. Yeah. Semi-reproduction that's authentic.
No. Meaning that like, I don't know how to explain it, but it looks like it fits the time, but it's done in today's time.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why I like that, because it's just gonna look dope, and it's also stark, and it's also the idea that you don't see posters or even covers in that yellow all that
right.
often.
Yeah.
And that's the thing too, is that it's got that like World War II, 1940s, 1950s yellow.
Yeah.
Versus this right here, which is sort of more of a traditional yellow, versus like the richness of this yellow.
Right.
That's what we do on the show. We talk about colors in yellow.
Yeah.
but this is what makes a cover, though.
It is. Yep. I am a fan of the primary colors. I mean, obviously, you look at this one. It's you got a black background, but boom, it pops out with that yellow logo there, right? It pops out at you and stands out.
The yellow is good, but it's not like
right. If this is sitting on the rack, in behind you. You can read that logo, right? You can tell what that is. You can see it. And that's to me, that's an important thing about logos on a comic.
Yeah, no, it's very, very important. And then obviously that's kind of what's going on. And then even just to drop into all the rewards, obviously digital, the double feature Kickstarter exclusive, the retail pack, which is super cool actually.
Yeah.
Where the more you buy, the more you save, which is actually helpful because it is actually an incentive to buy more.
Yeah.
And if or you can take the risk as a shop, saving 10 cents, 20 cents, 30 cents per book can make a big difference.
Yeah.
And also, one of the cool things is that if you order more than 21, you could put your store logo on the book as well and then create a product that is a variant for your store.
Yeah.
And that's helpful too, because now it's kind of like, oh, wow, you could put your store logo on there. And if you buy 30, well, that means that can only be bought at your store.
That's right. That's exactly it. And we've got a couple of stores that will back us. We have one that backs us consistently, and that is make sure I've got them on here. And that is the store that's local to me, and that is Coliseum of Comics. The Coliseum of Comics here on East Colonial Drive. They are they carry all the Kickstarters we do. They support us, and I deliver them to them. In fact, I've been swapping emails with the owner, trying to set up a signing time that I can deliver those books to him, and then we'll sign them for a couple of hours there in the store. So.
Yeah, no, because that's the other thing too, is that obviously doing signings and things like that also help, and then the exclusivity and then having the variants. And it's just kind of nice in a lot of ways that a store does that and says, hey, we're throwing our logo up there. And it's also helpful, I would imagine, that if a store is going to do a con where it's a distinguishing factor.
Right.
And that I mean, I miss their exclusivity. So, I didn't make a 50 limited metal card for no good reason. I mean, I put my logo on this.
Yes.
Okay. Anywhere I could put my logo, absolutely. There's a graffiti artist that I want her do my logo in graffiti.
Yeah.
And I'm willing to pay her to do it. And it's going to be dope. And I don't care where it is. And I got no problem. She says 1,000, I'm in.
Wow.
Because that elf up there in graffiti is going to look dope as fuck.
Right. Yeah.
How many people have their logo in graffiti?
Yeah. I would say almost none.
On an indie level.
Yeah, I would say almost none. I don't know of any.
Exactly. I'm not telling you who's going to do it because everybody's going to then copy me. I refuse. I'll tell everybody after. So you can't beat me to the punch. I'll be like, I was here first.
That's right.
You copy me, credit me now. This is all about me. It's my idea first.
Copyright TM. Right.
Conversations in pop culture first. But anyway, I'm going to digress right there as well before, again, I get you and me canceled. we might be too far. Now that we're almost an hour and 40 minutes in, we might be too far for that. As Winston Churchill said in Wolf Hunters, if you're in the middle of hell, you might as well keep going.
That's right.
or if you're in the middle of the train, you might as well go to the next cart.
Yep.
Yeah, that's so bad on so many levels. But you also have original art for sale as well.
Yep.
I think that does well. I don't know if the Stephen Butler piece sold yet, but
I am pretty sure it has. Yeah.
Because usually that goes pretty quick.
Yes.
And I think some of Barb's work goes quickly as well.
Yes.
And it's the idea that I think also there's some pieces that obviously I don't think you're going to sell, but also if somebody wants a piece, I would imagine, and they reach out to you and it's not up there and you want to sell, I'm sure you're willing to put it up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the nice things about a campaign like this is that we can't delete a reward that has already had someone back it, but we can always add new stuff. That's always, I mean, that's essentially what stretch goals are. You know, you add new stuff. So yeah, absolutely. If someone has an idea of something that they want and it's not there, we've done that multiple times. Someone says, hey, you know, this is issue 2 of this, and I'm only going to get the digital version because I live in Australia or whatever, like, you know, but I don't have issue number 1. Can you add that as a add-on to it? I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. If you want to get the add-on so that you can get 1 and 2, I'll do that. So yeah, you know, that takes a little bit of time, but not much.
Yeah, and also I'm sure that on a retail level, if there's a new shop that says, hey, we were looking at your stuff, man, and we want a particular almost custom retail package, I'm sure that something could be worked out in that realm.
Yeah.
And I know that stuff is easy. It's not that hard. Or if somebody wants saying, hey, I love page number 7 in this book, and it's weird
right.
to have it, and I'm willing to, what's your price on it? That sounds great. You know, I'm pretty sure you're willing to do that because
yeah, just reach out to us.
And then the other thing that's very cool that you do is that you could pretty much get anything from the Silverline Comics library at this point. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of stuff here. So that's some of that, some White Devil, or as Phil Leon wants to go, White Devil! He does it much better. So if you ever talk to him, I ask him to do it. And then there's more stuff with this. And then there's more stuff. And I think I'm missing a few. I think I'm missing a few of what I just showed.
Oh,
your library.
Yeah. So all those. I'm just trying to say all of them in the library. I'm looking at it on my other screen over here. So I think that all of those.
I'm missing a few here.
What's that?
Pictures. I'm missing a few of the pictures.
So they're all available, obviously, as part of the Kickstarter. They're add-ons. Most of these are also available on Indie Planet. There's a couple of them that aren't on Indie Planet yet, but most of these are also on Indie Planet. But yeah, the thing about it is, and the reason that we like to include these here with the Kickstarters is that if you're backing and you're already supporting the Kickstarter and you're like, hey, I didn't grab Silverline Team Up Champion and Miss Fury. Well, all you got to do is click on the button that you want it, and you get to add that, and it's shipped with your Kickstarter. So you don't have to worry about extra, a second package, additional shipping. It all comes, it all comes right there. So we've had a lot of
things
we've had a lot of luck with this, with having these on here. Occasionally, I tell you what's kind of fun for me to see. All right, I wonder if I can show you without giving names. This is a sheet that I used for fulfillment. Right, I print this out and add it all up. And, I got the names here and the addresses, so I can't show all that. But one of the things right across the center here, I can show. I figure out a way to get it shown. Right. So these are so what you can see here. These are add-ons. Like you can see, I've highlighted it. Right. See, like this is an add-on right here, right? Yeah. So what's fun for me to see is you can see right here, you see this whole long line right here. Yeah. That's one person, right? You can see all the add-ons right here, right? But the line across, that's one person. And so what's happened is somebody has discovered it and decided, you know what? And maybe it's their second Kickstarter. I usually find that they've backed a Kickstarter, got it, liked it, come back for the next one, and then just said, I'm all in. And then they just say, give me one of every one thing that you got. That's exciting for me to see, because it means that they've seen and read something that they liked enough to go all in on all these other titles.
It's also the idea that when you do a Kickstarter and I come into somebody and I don't know who the fuck you are, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. And then you deliver, and you deliver effectively. And I didn't interview you. I'm like, hey, your project looks cool. You seem like a good person. And then I come back and then I spend more money.
Right.
An add-on. Maybe I don't go bonkers, I don't go crazy, but it's also a trust factor. You know,
right.
The idea that I wonder what it's going to look like when I launch season 4 of my show, and what that's going to look like as far as, did I deliver on all the people that were brought in and the people I converted and they added on stuff. And that's where it's going to get very interesting, I feel.
Yeah.
Is that, okay, because that's kind of the thing where somebody might buy something for $20 and say, I want to try it. And this thing converted 50 backers for me, for instance. Now, all of a sudden, they're like, yo, I'm going to add 10 more of these interviews, right? And so I think, or, hey, I really liked White Devil, and this is what I was looking for because, well, comics are rough right now. Batman's boring the fuck out of me. I like this. Yeah. Let me go pick up another 10 because I need something to read. Or I feel comfortable enough to give this to my 12-year-old son.
Right.
That's another thing that happens that I've heard about, where somebody's like, look, I don't trust Roland, and the first round, which is understandable because you have to earn $1.
Yeah.
I don't expect somebody the first time they come on my show to say, hey, Andrew, let me throw you $10 to help make your show happen. Or, hey, let me throw you a $5 donation. You've been on my show 5 times. You say, hey, I get that this thing costs money, and boom, here's $5, man. Or, hey, man, let me send you a bunch of digital copies of my book.
Right.
Or, hey, let me go help you out. Or let me go back your Kickstarter because, well, you clearly want me back on, and clearly I need to support you. And you earned the trust.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
It's very interesting, and obviously in the comic realm, and I don't know if I'm ever going to do a comic at this point, because there's a lot of other venues and areas. If I want to make money, because making money and doing a comic are two separate things.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
This is more like me doing this was a passion project because I always wanted metal cards, but I think I'm going to break even and do a little bit better than breaking even. But I don't think I'm making $1 million.
Yeah.
Do with the money that I make and invest it, I might make $1 million on that. But that's a different discussion. But it's the idea that it is trust, and it's kind of nice that about 8 people who've never been on my show trusted me enough to say, yeah, I'm in. And then they do add-ons, and that was cool too. And I'm like, oh snap! Like, so it's weird, and I have a very different view of Kickstarter, both good and bad.
Yeah.
Because I experienced both in my campaign, but I'm happy that I did it because it definitely changes the way I view things at this point.
Yeah.
And I realized how much work it is, and I had an idea before, but I have a better idea now.
Yeah, it was a lot of work, and you know, one of the things that we kind of always see is that we tend to get a dropped backer or two.
I had one.
What's that?
I had one in my
one. Oh, that's good. That's good.
He knows me, and I said, "Hey man, what's going on?" Not to beat him up, but I wanted to know what was going on.
Yeah, why did they do it? Yeah,
you were on my show before. You threw me some money before on my buy me a coffee. I want to know if you're okay. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, you okay?" Like, I'm not gonna snap at you. I'm not gonna shame you, you know. But I also want a communication.
Right. Yeah.
But I get it. I get shit happens. People have crises in their life. I get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It happens. But yeah. So we've been fortunate. I've heard some horror stories. You know, I've heard some folks who run Kickstarter say, you know, they've got 10, 15, 20 backers back out, or they've got someone who's backed at a really large level. Back out at the last minute so that it actually puts their funding goal under. And
how does that?
They don't make. The thing about it is, if someone has backed, let's just say you're running a campaign for $1,500, right? And you've got all kinds of backers, and you're at about, let's say, what I say, 15. You're at about $1,200. And you get one backer that backs for $1,000, and that takes you up to $2,200, right? That backer can back out at the last minute, assuming that you don't get any other backers, and take you below your funding goal and cause you not to make.
Because this is my question. I actually don't know the answer to that. So obviously, if they back out 30 seconds later, you're fucked.
Yes.
And so I was fortunate enough where this backer didn't put me below my goal, and I wound up doing 855. And they didn't bitch or anything. And said, "Oh man, it was kind of a shame. I was hoping to get to 40." We were like,
right. Uh-oh. There you are.
I'm a bad artist, and I did a drawing with David Whalen from Correct Handed Comics of me drawing for the first time live on my birthday, and I was at 40. I was going to give the drawing away, so to somebody and send it to them, and I think it was going to be hilarious in a raffle because it's a bad drawing, okay, but it's funny in a lot of ways. They would have got it, and you didn't need to pick a physical reward or anything like that. It would have been a raffle. It would have been a fun thing, right?
Right.
That's why I was upset.
Yeah.
It was all about selfishness, because when I make it big, now I'm going to actually have to sell the art and not give it away. So it's terrible. It's just terrible. But
first world problems, right?
Exactly. But I actually have a real question, though, because you've run a bunch of them. What happens if you're over your goal, somebody backs $1,000 pledge at $2,200 and you are at $1,200, but then their credit card is declined? How does that affect things? Because I didn't have that problem, but people's credit cards get declined, and I don't know if you've ever backed a campaign and your credit card's been declined, not because you didn't have money, but because it was like $5 and your bank thinks that a fraud is being committed. That happens to me. It's happened about 4 times.
Wow.
Because I was backing a $3 reward. So at a $3 reward, the bank thought it was an irregular transaction. And so I called my bank. I'm like, hey guys, I backed the kids. Like, yeah, man, no worries, we got you. Just retry the card in like an hour. And went through perfectly fine. But what happens if you're at that stage and then because you're below funding, but you funded?
So so what happens in that instance is whatever funding you're at when the campaign closes, regardless of the cards, you'll make, right? So if you're right at, let's say you're $5 above your funding goal, and then somebody with a $10 pledge, their credit card is declined or fails, and that puts you $5 under. They're not going to undo your campaign. You will have made still. You're not going to get that money, obviously, but they won't undo the fact that your campaign made. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you funded, but that creates a bigger problem, doesn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it depends on how big the reward is. I mean, we've had that happen to some. I mean, but they're usually $8 to $20. And when I say some, I'm talking one every other campaign, one or two. Hardly ever, but it has happened. So I mean, obviously we run a bunch of campaigns, so I've seen it. And a lot of times what happens, because I had someone email me about it. A lot of times what happens is like, hey man, my credit card expired, and so I had to request a new one and get all the new number, the new expiration date, and all that kind of stuff. And I haven't been able to update my card yet. So so it happens.
No, because I didn't know what happened in that, and that's kind of a crazy circumstance. Because if you're at 1,200 and then you get $1,000, and then that person's credit card doesn't go through, you might be fucked. Like,
yeah.
And I had an instance where the person their credit card just got declined for a day, and then the next day it was whatever. But I even like Sean would say, hey man, your credit card's whatever. Take your time. We got like a few days. Don't worry about it. It's like, yeah, man, sorry about that. I'll get it fixed. And because things happen, and people's credit cards just get flagged sometimes, or something is going on, and then most times it's fixed though.
Right. Yes.
But I didn't know what happened. That's why I was curious.
Yeah.
Because again, I've only run one Kickstarter, and I did not have that problem.
Yeah. So what'll happen is immediately, right? As soon as it ends, like within 24 hours, they will try to charge all the cards. And as the one who's running it, you can go and see the errored backers, right? Now, I usually give it a couple of days. Because they'll only give it a week, right? They will try them for about a week to fix them. But after that, they'll arrow them out and that cancels the pledge, right? So I'll give it a couple of days, and then I'll actually drop the person an email and say, hey, Kickstarter, because they may not realize it. Some people are like, oh no, I didn't even know that, right? So I'll drop them an email and it says, hey, Kickstarter tells me that your card is errored, so you might need to update your information. I never assume that someone's been declined for funds at all. I assume that some people are more like me and they've been declined just because they forgot to update their card, right?
They've been declined because they're stupid.
Yes.
To put it nicely, okay?
Yeah.
Or the bank is protecting them.
Right. Yeah. So I make that assumption and then just drop them an email and say, hey, I don't know if you know this or not, but this is the case. Then they can do whatever they want to. If they can fix it, then they'll get it fixed. If they can't fix it, then that will be a pledge that we lose.
No, that's fascinating because I don't know anything about this, and I don't think people talk about it. Because I was looking on the internet for this solution, and I'm like, nobody has it. Like,
Right.
and to me, and maybe it's just because who I am. I'm like, I would want to know this before I launch.
Yeah.
But it's a very, very technical question. And I was always curious about it because I'm like, hey, what happens if somebody doesn't have the money
Yeah. Yeah.
after you made it? Like,
Yeah. 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 That's what happens.
that's fascinating. And then obviously there's a lot of stuff. I like picking your brain. I'm like miniature Joe Rogan, just the Kickstarter version. Yeah. I'm like Joe Rogan, just a lot poorer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Really.
I'm terrible. Somebody told me I should make that shirt. I'm like, I would if I didn't think he would sue me. Like,
Oh, I don't know. You could probably get away with it enough to make your money back.
I don't know though. I don't really want to do that shirt. I kind of like Rogan.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to take money out of somebody who's enjoyable to listen to, and he's got enough problems with Spotify.
Yeah, I don't know that you'd be taking money away from him. You'd be creating your own.
Maybe I should do it. I'm like Joe Rogan, just a lot poorer.
Yeah, yeah. So
But I digress, and I do want to go to sleep in the next like hour.
yeah,
Hour is I
I'm
mean one tone order.
I'm really beginning to wind down here. I got a class in the morning, so
Whoa. As much as I would really like to deprive you and your students, yeah, and you know what it is? I'm sure you're bringing your students something very nutritious in the morning, right?
oh, I never bring them food. Yeah, I bring them information. I let them
Clearly, you don't know what I'm referring to.
I let them digest information.
Well, I am bringing all my students some Jameson tomorrow, so they might not learn anything important, but they will learn what a good day and what a great holiday tomorrow is.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting tomorrow's St. Patrick's Day. I keep forgetting.
Oh man, great St. Patrick's Day was when I was working for the government. My boss brought in Irish beer, Lucky Charms, and some Jameson, and that was a fun day.
Yeah.
When you're forced to eat Lucky Charms and drink at your job, and you're a government employee,
I think half of my students are under 21, so
not tomorrow. They're not.
I better not do that if I want to keep my job.
No. What is the rule about keeping your job?
Don't get fired.
Don't get caught.
Don't get caught. Yeah.
What did Tiger Woods? What was his mistake?
He cheated. Yeah.
What was Bill Clinton's mistake? He got
caught. Yeah.
I'm just saying that's the problem. So those people need to go to school how not to get caught.
Right.
They need to go to school not to do it.
There's
not to get caught.
There's probably a degree out there on that somewhere.
Yes, Mr. Carminez teaches very well. How do I teach these kids?
Right.
Greatest episode of South Park ever. But I digress. I do want to give you a chance to self-promote yourself before I become a very bad influence to my audience. I don't care about your audience.
Oh, okay.
So in all seriousness, though, I actually do care about your audience. I actually want to get your Kickstarter more backers, and I want to share it out. So where can people find you? Where could people back the Kickstarter, pick up other books from Silverline, hit you up for information, and share it out and all that fun stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we always say is that, back it, take a look at it, back it if you can. But if you can't back it, you absolutely can share it. That doesn't cost you anything. And as we know, Everybody's got a little geek in their life somewhere, and so share it with them and say, hey, this is a project that you might like. That doesn't cost you anything. Share it on social media. Let folks know about it. Tell them about it. As far as where you can find me, I am all over the social medias. Not always super active, just because I'm busy doing other stuff than farting around on social media. But you can find me on the Twitters, the Facebook, the Instagram, the whatever. I stream on Sunday nights with a gang. We call it the Silverline Sunday Crew, and we stream from about 8 to 9:30 Eastern time there. So come hang out with us. We just talk about all kind of geeky stuff, comic book related. Very easy to get, very easy to find and reach out. If you want to say something to me, just drop me a line.
Only nice things.
I'm trying to think. Rarely do I get mean things because I just think people don't want to. It's just Roland. I'm not going to worry about saying mean things to him because who cares?
Oh, I meant saying to you.
Right. Only nice things to me, right?
Yes, exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And so obviously, and I've been saying it. I'm going to keep saying it. I'm 27 months into saying it, and there's going to be another 27 months at least of me saying it. You have to support indie comics.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is you back a Kickstarter, an Indiegogo, a Patreon, a Zoom. However somebody's funding their project, you back it.
That's
but
right.
as Roland said, is that if money's tight, everybody's been there. Everybody has different financial positions. And I think everybody understands that in comics and in life. And I get it. You get it. What you can do is you could share it out. And sharing it out goes a long way.
Yeah.
And even saying, hey, this is a cool project. Want to post it in a Facebook group, tweet about it, Instagram it. Whatever you do, you can make a TikTok about it.
Right.
Or just tell a friend. You can say, hey, this book looks right up your alley. Figure that you would enjoy it.
That's right.
And whatever happens out of that, but it's doing something and it's helpful.
Right.
So I really recommend that people do that. And social media and sharing it on social media is free. And and you don't have to share it every day. That's not what anybody's asking.
No.
But even just sharing it once a week, if you like the project but you can't back it, goes a long way.
Right.
And there's always going to be an opportunity to get at least one of the covers for this book at some point, and when you're in a better financial position as well.
Right.
So that's something to keep in mind as well. As far as I'm concerned about me, I appreciate everybody sharing out my show, checking out my show. I really appreciate it. Actually commenting, watching. We are coming into podcast format, so that's helpful. I also appreciate when people use my sponsors. I got a sponsor with Mixum, 5% off Andrew Davis. If you are not happy with your printer or you are happy with your printer. But I get printing is very personal. So if you're thrilled with your printer, please use whoever you need to use. But if you're unhappy, Mixum's a great printer. Also, I have a BCW supplies code under Pop Anime Comics at checkout. It's 10% off your entire order. So you're looking for bags, board supplies. That's helpful. Also, I have a t-shirt up in Redbubble. It's in the description up above. You can check that out. And as I stated, I have these metal cards right now up on my eBay store. Links in the description. It's under metal cards. You could click it. And this one's limited to 121. It's $10. This one is a 50 run. It is $15. But you can make an offer, and I am willing to cut deals for both of them if you're interested. And I really appreciate anybody who does this. And she's really hot. So that's a good reason to buy this. And they're shiny. You can see how shiny they are.
They are shiny.
This
Very
is not
shiny.
what you want to wake up to, ever. Ever. You don't want to wake up to this because she looks a little psycho killer in you. So I'm just saying, but it's a really cool metal card. And definitely. And then my friend DJ, who's this one, is an upcoming cosplayer, and you're going to see a lot more of him in the next 2 years. So this is the time to get this metal card, because when he makes it big, because I am raising the price on these, on April 10th. So that's something to keep in mind too, is that it's going to be $12 and you're going to be paying the Kickstarter price for that, if not more. So go check that out. And I appreciate everybody doing this, watching us, checking us out, and hearing the voice, whether Facebook or podcast or YouTube or Rumble or wherever else we are. Obviously, I appreciate all of it. And I'm going to give Roland the final word.
Thanks for having me. Everybody, thanks for joining us. Go check out the Kickstarter and hit me up on social media.
I don't think I could have said it any better myself, everybody. That's a wrap.